Is Mitchell Trubisky a bust? Simple question, but there's a lot behind it that I wanted to look into. Mitchell Trubisky gets a lot of hate, and basically my inspiration with asking this question in the first place is this hate justified? Is this level of hate justified? The level of hate going to the point where the Bears fans don't even trust their own head coach Matt Nagy with starting Mitchell Trubisky. They think he's wrong. They think they know more without even seeing him in training camp. So, is there enough bad play in the past to be able to say outright that Mitchell Trubisky should not start? Well, let's look into it. Just this past Saturday, the Bears announced that quarterback Mitchell Trubisky had won the starting job for the team over career backup and Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles. And according to numerous reports, Mitch simply outplayed Foles in training camp. And he wasn't the clear winner of the starting role. Matt Nagy, he said it was a hard choice to make. But what seems to be more fascinating in terms of storylines is just how much hate Trubisky receives. Like I said, it seems that on a weekly basis, Bears fans deeply regret passing on Patrick Mahomes in the draft just as much as they regret ever putting their faith in Trubisky. So, with all this regret, with all this hate, I figured I'd take a good portion of this episode to see if the hate is justified and if the Bears truly need to move on from Trubisky. Now, first off, let's take a look at what Trubisky has done so far in his career, dating all the way back to high school. Now, even in high school, Trubisky was shaping up as a top quarterback prospect in his class. He threw for over 9,000 yards and 92 touchdowns collectively throughout his high school career, and he did this while simultaneously rushing for 1,500 yards and 33 touchdowns. The impressive production that Trubisky put out set him up to receive the Ohio Mr. Football Award in 2012, and at the end of his senior year, Trubisky committed to the University of North Carolina. Trubisky redshirted for his first year at North Carolina in 2013, and ended his freshman year with 459 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 4 picks, spread apart several appearances in games throughout the season. In his sophomore season, Trubisky played as the backup quarterback once again, finishing with just over 550 yards and 6 touchdowns through the air, accompanied by over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Now, the following season, his junior year, he took over as a starting quarterback in 2016. He played solid throughout the season, even despite a Sun Bowl loss against the Stanford Cardinal, in which Trubisky threw for 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. But overall, Trubisky finished his final collegiate season with 3,748 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Really good numbers. At the end of his successful junior season, Trubisky decided to declare for the 2017 NFL Draft, foregoing his senior season. Now, heading into the NFL Draft, Trubisky was ranked as a top 4 quarterback prospect in the draft by both ESPN, Pro Football Focus, and Sports Illustrated. So the Bears weren't alone in thinking Trubisky was the man to take at number 2. So, in the end, Trubisky was taken at number 2 by the Chicago Bears in the 2017 NFL Draft, creating some fuel to throw to an oncoming fire that Bears fans would fan and start in the following seasons. In the 2017 preseason stretch, Trubisky did nothing short of impressive. In fact, he held the 3rd highest passer rating out of the 29 quarterbacks with at least 50 passes throughout the preseason, at an impressive 106.2. And even with this achievement, Trubisky was unable to convince John Fox, the Bears head coach at the time, to name him the starter. Instead, that title went to Mike Glennon to start the 2017 regular season, Glennon being a quarterback who only won the starting job due to experience, as Trubisky outplayed him in nearly every other statistical category possible that preseason. But it wouldn't last long. The Bears then went on to start the 2017 season with a 1-3 record, and as expected, this mixed with poor play on Glennon's part caused John Fox to throw rookie quarterback Mitchell Trubisky into the starting role in a Hail Mary attempt to salvage the season. Now, following this switch, Trubisky made his first career start against the Minnesota Vikings. The Bears lost the Monday Night Football matchup, and Trubisky's mediocre play didn't help the situation. Trubisky recovered the following week, though, leading the Bears on a crucial overtime drive that set up a game-winning field goal against the Baltimore Ravens, and in the game after that, Trubisky played poorly once again. 2 lows, 1 high, with just 107 passing yards. The Bears' defense carried, though, allowing the Bears to easily beat the Panthers and move on to a 3-4 record overall, 2-1 under Trubisky. And the next 5 games would result in losses for Trubisky and the Bears, often caused by poor offensive production by Trubisky and his offense. Now, Trubisky would eventually end his rookie season with a mediocre 4-8 rookie record, along with 7 touchdowns and 7 picks. Probably not much better than Mike Glennon would have done in the end. Now, at this point in his career, it was tough to say whether he was going to amount to the value of a number 2 overall draft pick, as the numbers he put up in his rookie year were somewhat expected by a rookie quarterback forced into the role of a football team, the starting quarterback. In 2018, Trubisky was faced with the challenge of adjusting to a brand new head coach, Matt Nagy, along with a brand new offense. The Bears were determined to make Trubisky's development as easy as possible, again, hiring Matt Nagy, but along with that, signing wide receivers Allen Robinson, Tyler Gabriel, and tight end Trey Burton in the offseason, trying to make it as easy as they can for Trubisky to really step it up in his second year. The 2018 season started off slowly for the Bears' revamped offense, despite starting with a 2-1 record. Finally, though, signs of a bright future were appearing as Trubisky put on a mesmerizing performance in Week 4 against the Bucs. In this game, Trubisky put up 354 yards and 6 touchdowns with 5 in just the first half, along with a passer rating of 154.7. This started a streak of glory and great play for Trubisky as he would go on to throw for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in the next 2 games against the Dolphins and the Patriots, despite losing both games. The season would have week-to-week highs and lows for Trubisky for the remainder of the season, but he was ultimately named an alternate to the 2018 Pro Bowl, throwing for over 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 12 picks over the course of the season. Not to mention, he also showcased his scrambling ability by rushing for 421 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, his second season under Matt Nagy, though, was a good season. I mean, he's a second-year quarterback after being forced into a starting role in his first year, and he throws for 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns to 12 picks, along with great numbers on the ground, 421 yards and 3 touchdowns, not to mention they make the playoffs. With a second-year quarterback, that doesn't happen very often. Now, in the wild card playoff matchup against the Eagles, Trubisky struggled early. He bounced back, though, with 198 yards and a touchdown in the second half alone, and at the end of the game, Trubisky showed that he was the quarterback of the Bears. He led the Bears on a 33-yard drive with just 48 seconds left to set Cody Parkey up with a game-winning field goal opportunity. Now, sadly, as many of you probably know, the field goal failed. It bounced off both the post and the crossbar before hitting the turf. Trubisky set several franchise and postseason records this game, including the 303 yards he threw, as well as the 26 completions he had. This game was not a disappointment for the second-year quarterback in the slightest. Trubisky was then named the first Bears quarterback since 1986 to participate in the Pro Bowl, as Jared Goff was Super Bowl bound. The up-and-down, week-to-week play style continued for Trubisky in 2019, though. While having star moments like his 300-yard, 3-touchdown performance on Thanksgiving, he also had plenty of lows. Trubisky was injured for a short number of games last year as well, hindering his ability to put up consistently impressive stats. And overall, the Bears missed the playoffs, despite Trubisky holding a positive 8-7 quarterback record on the season. So in total, Trubisky threw for over 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 10 picks, along with a 63.2% completion percentage in year 3. Now, overall, Trubisky falls short of a complete draft bust up to this point. He has a 23-18 overall record, which equates to a 56.1% win percentage as the Bears' starting quarterback, which comes relatively close to, may I compare him to Jared Goff. Jared Goff has a 61.1% win percentage, only 4 points higher than Trubisky. Along with this, Trubisky's 1.65 turnover ratio is far better than Sam Darnold's 1.28. Not to mention, Trubisky's 63.4% completion rate is far better than both Darnold and Goff. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that Darnold and Goff have yet to been labeled draft busts. Yet, Trubisky doesn't fall too far off in terms of production from either of these quarterbacks. Trubisky has made the playoffs once with the Bears in the same way that Goff has made the playoffs once with the Rams. Darnold hasn't even made the playoffs. The only difference, Trubisky's kicker missed a game winner, which cut the playoff run short. Now, in the end, it shouldn't come as an insane surprise to people that Trubisky is starting for the Bears this upcoming season. I mean, granted, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl, but the Bears are giving one more shot to Trubisky to find success and lead this team into the playoffs once more. It's fair to give him this chance. He made the playoffs 2 years ago because we've seen games in which Trubisky's exciting ceiling has been shown. Granted, last year it looked like he regressed a bit, but he has had several great games along with several bad games, last year included. Trubisky just needs to bring those two sides closer together in order to put up more consistent numbers that an NFL team can rely on. Trubisky is not done yet and shouldn't be labeled a bust by fans before the Bears decide he's a bust. They see the same potential I do. And granted, Trubisky has had 3 seasons to develop, but this is exactly why this upcoming season is a prove-it year for Trubisky. I'm not saying Trubisky is for sure the franchise guy for the Bears, but don't be mad that they're giving him a final shot here. He's had 2 seasons with Nagy and needs to prove that he can be a consistent producer in the Bears system. He has the offense now, not a brilliant offense, but he has an offense. He has a head coach. He has a defense. And if he fails, expect the Bears to look into the future and take a quarterback early in the 2021 NFL Draft. Mitchell Trubisky is not a draft bust yet. He might be soon, but he's not one yet. Give him this season to prove it. It's a prove-it season for Trubisky. The Bears didn't pick up their 5th-year option. If he fails this year, Mitchell Trubisky will not be a Chicago Bear in 2021. I guarantee it.